YouTube. So it's Tone. I'm back with another one for you. This is one of the documents that I would file in my case for driving without a license, whatever, things like that, where you know that these people are gonna take civil charges and then try to throw the word criminal on them and then try to threaten you with jail time for civil matters. When you're not even supposed, people aren't supposed to be going to jail for civil matters at all, but they like to call them criminal to try to make it seem like they're not civil, when in all reality it's all commercial. There is no actual victims, nobody was harmed, and this is how they're getting away with that nonsense. So this is a letter from the U.S. Department of Justice, the Civil Rights Division. And so this notice was given, I believe, to all the courts. And if they didn't get it, then you should definitely give this to them and file it as evidence. You're gonna want to mark this with a, whatever your exhibit is gonna be. So Exhibit A, Exhibit B, whatever. Mark it as something like that, so you can make reference to it during the case, and then use it as evidence, because they should have gotten this already. And so here it says the Department of Justice is committed to assisting state and local courts in their efforts to ensure equal justice and due process for all those who come before them. In December 2015, the department convened a diverse group of stakeholders: judges, court administrators, lawmakers, prosecutors, defense attorneys, advocates, and impacted individuals, to discuss the assessment and enforcement of fines and fees in state and local courts, where the convening made plain that unlawful and harmful practices exist in certain jurisdictions throughout the country. It has also highlighted a number of reform efforts underway by state leaders, judicial officers, and advocates, and underscored the commitment of all the participants to continue addressing these critical issues. At the meeting, participants and department officials also discussed ways in which the department could assist courts in their efforts to make needed changes. Among other recommendations, participants called on the department to provide greater clarity to state and local courts regarding their legal obligations with respect to fines and fees, and to share their best practices. Accordingly, this letter is intended to address some of the most common practices that run afoul in the United States Constitution and other federal laws, and to assist court leadership in ensuring that courts at every level of the justice system operate fairly, lawfully, as well to suggest alternative practices that can address legitimate public safety needs while also protecting the rights of the participants in the justice system. Recent years have seen increased attention on the illegal enforcement of fines and fees in certain jurisdictions around the country, often with respect to the individuals accused of misdemeanors, quasi-criminal ordinance violations, or civil infractions. Typically, courts do not sentence defendants to incarcerations in these cases, monetary fines and the norm, yet the harm, and we'll go to the next page here. And so yet the harm caused by unlawful practices in these jurisdictions can be profound. Individuals may confront escalating debt, face repeated unnecessary incarcerations for non-payment despite posing no danger to the community, lose their jobs, and become trapped in cycles of poverty that can be nearly impossible to escape. Furthermore, in addition to being unlawful to the extent that these practices are geared not toward addressing public safety, but rather toward raising revenue, they can cast doubt on the impartiality of the tribunal and erode trust between local governments and their constituents. To help judicial actors protect individuals' rights and avoid unnecessary harm, we discuss below a set of basic constitutional principles relevant to the enforcement of fines and fees. These principles, grounded in the rights to due process and equal protection, require the following. Courts must not incarcerate a person for non-payment of fines or fees without first conducting an indigency determination and establishing that failure to pay was willful, right? So they have to see how much money you make before they say that you don't want to pay it. Sometimes you just don't have the money and they don't care, right? So courts must consider alternatives to incarceration for indigent defendants unable to pay fines and fees. Courts must not condition access to a judicial hearing on the prepayment of fines or fees. Courts must provide meaningful notice and appropriate cases counsel when enforcing fines and fees. Courts must not use arrest warrants or license suspension as means of coercing payment of court debt when individuals have not been afforded constitutionally adequate procedural protections. Courts must not employ bail or bond practices that cause indigent defendants to remain incarcerated solely because they cannot afford to pay for their release date, right? So they don't even care if you don't have the money. Your bail set at 10,000, it might as well be $1 million if you don't have the 10,000. But they don't give you a hearing to see if you can even fucking afford it. You know what I'm saying? So basically that's fucking kidnapping. So courts must safeguard against unconstitutional practices by court staff and private contractors. Private contractors and actors is what I'm going to highlight in this whole shit. In court systems receiving federal funds, these practices may also violate Title IV of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, 42 United States Code, Clause 2000D, when they unnecessarily impose this disparate harm on the base of race and national origin. So they're receiving federal funds. That makes them a subdivision of the federal government, which the federal government only has the authority to regulate commerce. Right? Think about that. Actors and fucking contractors. So this is something that I would definitely file into my case. If you're having any issues at all, go ahead, look that up online. You can print that out, get it all marked up nice, and go ahead and throw it on their lap as soon as you get in there, man. You know, like it's not fair what they're really doing to people like that, treating them like fucking assholes, when in all reality they're the fucking asshole. See how that goes? So that's what I got for you for now, until we meet again.